Not every American tank built was destined for the U.S. Army. Some were transported through the Persian corridor into Russia. From the steelworks of Detroit straight to the Eastern Front. And it wasn't just tanks that wound up in Russia. The Americans sent experienced combatants too. Colonel Peters had joined the Russian advance into Romania. With the news spreading that a second front had opened up in France, both sides knew this was a critical turning point in the war. From his position on the hill, Peters and his Russian crew were about to get their first taste of action as a joint force.
What's up, guys? This is ByzantineFalcon. I'm going to start doing a War Stories series here, checking this out. I will see it the first time you see it. Now, also don't forget that I am still doing a Q&A. Send your questions to ByzantineFalcon on Facebook or my Xbox Live account, or even comment them below. Let's get to the story.
The Germans had launched a preemptive strike on the Russian armor.
Okay, so moving on. I'm trying to dodge the in-game narrative. Not really sure if I'm going to dodge it 100%. I may run over it a little bit, but, you know, it is what it is. Now, one of my fans I was talking with the other day, he believes that War Stories will, you know, bring in a lot of players who are not necessarily savvy to the, you know, wargaming, PvP type of situation. You know, just kind of open the door to a lot of new gamers. Maybe not, you know, necessarily people who are part of the MMO RPG type style game, which is not necessarily an RPG, but you kind of get what I'm trying to say, because it kind of adds another layer to the PvE, which, you know, you had to Proving Grounds, but this is a different story. This is kind of like a campaign, and he believes it's just going to bring in a whole, you know, amount of fresh blood. And I've got to be honest, I agree with him. I think as a company, you know, Wargaming made a very good move here, because this kind of puts it in line with, you know, those of us that are history buffs, which is considerable, you know, where there's a lot of history buffs out there who want to play these things exactly like they're intended. And, you know, first time you get in your M4 Sherman and go out in a PvP match, you know, you might get annihilated. Or your Tiger tank, you know, and history buffs, you know, that's not necessarily true. When I first started this game, for example, all I wanted was the Tiger 1. I'm a big Tiger fanatic. Know a lot about the Tiger, and I got the Tiger, and man, if you don't know how to play it, you get annihilated. And that's just the long and short of it. Its armor in the game doesn't necessarily block very much at all. It's very, very flat. There's no angle. There's a lot better designs, but at the same time, in World War II, during that time, it was the height of technology, just like the French S-35 Suma. When that came out at the time, that was the height of technology. That was the best tank in the world. So things change, obviously, but the Germans typically had the upper hand because they always had some awesome tanks, because as a race, they're very, very good engineers. That being said, I went into this game assuming that. Now, granted, if there was another game involved, perhaps War Thunder, possibly a little bit closer, you know, you never actually hear of a tank taking, you know, multiple rounds, unless of course it's just straight bouncing them. So anyway, it's neither here nor there, but when I came into this game, I guess I'm trying to give you a point. When I came into this game, I was assuming it was going to be a simulator. It is not. It's a game. That's simply all it is. It's a game, and it just happens to have some things in it that we can relate to, like, you know, the M4 Sherman and the Tiger 1 and the tanks and so forth and so on. So, you know, don't make it more than it is. That being said, that kind of brings it back with the war stories. You know, you kind of can have that now. You can say, okay, I'm in a Tiger, I'm going to be okay, or I'm in a Sherman, I'm going to be fast, and you know, it puts you against the bots. And I think for the history buffs, you know, who don't necessarily want to, you know, play a 10,000 personal ranked player out on the battlefield, you know, you can just play some bots, and, you know, sure, they might be easy kills, but there's a bunch of them, and I wholeheartedly agree. I think this is going to open up a whole nother section here. I think people are going to have loads of fun playing these things, these war stories, and I am looking forward to them, and I think it's going to be super, super fun. So, you know, let's all watch the rest of this, and for the rest of them, I'm going to try my best to do live commentary.
Looks like that one went right through. Friendly vehicle destroyed. Got him. That one drilled straight through. Enemy armor.
Peters knew if he didn't keep his Sherman moving, he'd end up a burning wreck.
They destroyed one of our tanks. They found us. Dropping target. Look out, enemy spotted. Penetration. We finished him off. Target locked. I see one of them. We pierced their armor. He's gone. Find us another target. I see one. Releasing target. Penetration. Reloaded. Unlocking target. Got an enemy here. Been detected. Enemy vehicle destroyed. That one drilled straight through.
With the German tanks routed, Peters looked at his Sherman crew with pride. They had passed their first test admirably.
Great job, men.